Antarctica is unlike anywhere else on Earth. It's the highest, driest, coldest, and windiest continent on the planet. Its ice sheet is the largest ice store on Earth as well. Despite the continent's extreme conditions, it's also a great natural laboratory, which is why so many scientists brave the cold to work there. Huw Griffiths is a marine biogeographer who never thought he would visit the area, but ended up exploring, studying, and learning new things about the vast remote land.
I'm quite honest about this. So when I was a kid, I grew up by the beach, and I always wanted to be a marine biologist, even before I knew what those words were. I just knew I wanted to play on the beach for the rest of my life. But I did a marine biology degree, and in my final year, everybody else was going, oh, they've advertised the British Antarctic Survey wintering marine biology jobs. Are you going to apply? And I was like, why would anybody want to work in Antarctica? It's cold, it's dark for 6 months, it's like there's ice. Why would you could go scuba diving in Florida or something, somewhere warm. Why would you do this? And actually, I kind of felt like that for quite a while in terms of it looks beautiful, but it's not for me. I get cold too easily. Kind of thing. But then there were some jobs advertised where one of them wasn't meant to go to Antarctica. It was just a temporary part-time job. And I was applying for PhDs at the time. I thought, well, I could do worse than to have a job. Some money would be useful. So I applied. And then once I got the British Antarctic Survey, and you see all this amazing imagery around you, you meet these amazing experts, then suddenly I was hooked. And then when I eventually got a chance to go down there, it blew my mind completely. The marine biology is crazy. There's like 10 to 20% of the species we find are new to science every time we put a fishing net down. So in the UK, it would take me maybe a whole lifetime to find one new species. And in Antarctica, every time I go, it's like, who are we going to send this thing to? We don't know what it is. It's to find a museum expert somewhere who can ID it for us.
Antarctica is actually one of the driest deserts in the world, only getting 2 to 4 inches of precipitation a year.
It's cold, so it freezes all the moisture out of the air, which means your clothes work really well. If you wear the right clothes, it's fantastic. And sunblock is the other main thing. Because there's the ozone hole, you can get ridiculously sunny days. Because it's a bit colder, you don't realize that and then you'll get a really burnt nose or something and realize you've forgot a bit.
But researchers say the cold is worth it.
Yeah, Antarctica is really exciting and very different, and it functions quite differently to a lot of the other parts of the world. So we don't have sharks. We don't have most species of crabs and things like that because it's too cold. So you've got an ecosystem that's more like similar to kind of what paleontologists would study. So we have things like feather stars, and so they're called crinoids, which you find in the fossil record a lot. I'm always hoping one day we'll find a trilobite or something, because it's got so many things that you don't see in modern day communities doing really well down there that I'm like, oh, come on, we've got to find something that the rest of the world thinks is extinct. Because we've even got a type of isopod, so related to the kind of pill bugs or those kind of things, that is called trilobitoides because it looks exactly like a trilobite. But it definitely isn't one, but it's still exciting to find something and go, my God, I've never seen. Or a sea spider that's the size of a dinner plate, and your brain is blown by that. These things, Antarctic animals, are just amazing. It's a desert on land with a handful of terrestrial species, and in the ocean, we think we have about 20,000 species. But we're not sure because we keep finding more all the time. And when you do genetics on them, then some of the species you thought were one species can be 10 or 15 different species that just look quite similar to each other.
So you may be thinking, how can this research help people and animals that don't live in Antarctica?
But what we are finding is that there are animals in Antarctica that have antifreeze proteins instead of other things in their blood to stop their blood freezing up, for example. And those are really good for industry. There's some of those proteins are now used to make smoother ice cream. So it's not taken directly from an Antarctic fish, but they can generate it in the lab once they know about it. Or you could have animals that build their skeletons in really cold temperatures. And if we're trying to build buildings in really cold temperatures, how are they doing it and what can we learn from them? So there's things like that we can learn. So there's real positives about discoveries in Antarctica.